Fox Sports 910. All right, Ben, we had NBA free agency last week, and although some people say it wasn't as eventful due to the second apron rules and all these rules that the NBA is trying to gather to make it a little more even in the field, there were some big moves and there were some splashes as well as odd changes. So real quickly, we're going to go through some of the biggest odd changes team by team, just kind of give our thoughts on what they did in free agency. And one of the biggest odd changes, let's start out in Philly with the Philadelphia 76ers on June 18th. They were plus 1,600 to win the NBA Finals. As we sit here on July 6th, they are now plus 800, which is an 800 odd swing right there. And they also have the fourth best odds to win the NBA championship. Now, it's crazy to think that one Paul George would make a big change like this, but I'm interested to see your thoughts when you heard the 76ers signing Paul George.
You know, I've talked about this a lot last week when I was filling in for Jody on the drive. Let me ask you this, and then I'll continue with what I think about the Philadelphia 76ers. Can you name one, I just want one, memorable playoff Paul George moment in the last decade? I just want one.
Man.
If you, I'll even give you a second. Can you think of any? Is there one?
The only one I can think of, I don't know if he had a moment, but when he was on the Pacers, when they were playing the Miami Heat in the Eastern Conference
Finals. And he dunked on LeBron?
Yeah, that's the only one. And I think that was all
that was 11 years ago.
Wow.
That was 11 years ago. That was the 2013, if I'm not mistaken, NBA playoffs when him, Lance Stevenson, Roy Hibbert. This Philadelphia 76ers thing is so interesting because I don't think they're bad. I don't think it's going to blow up. I do think this. Have the Phoenix Suns not taught anyone anything? Clearly, the three-headed snake doesn't work as well as making a roster that's good top to bottom. I would have much rather, instead of spending $50 million on Paul George, 34-year-old Paul George, who will be 35 when the playoffs begin next year, 35-year-old Paul George, who hasn't had a singular signature playoff moment in the past 10 years, is now going to propel them to an NBA championship. That doesn't fix Joel Embiid's playoff woes, in which he's legitimately a different player from regular season to playoffs, like significantly different. The injury history, Paul George missed the playoffs last year because of injury. Joel Embiid is always injured. I really love Tyrese Maxey, but I would have much rather had a little bit of insurance, spread this money around a KCP or whatever players you want to spread it around. That I feel like would have been a better use of money. I think the 76ers are obviously better. I think they're a clear 3 seed. I would still take the New York Knicks and the Boston Celtics over them. Those two teams are the top dog, while Philadelphia is in that second tier. I'm curious if you think I'm nuts.
Oh, 100%. But I think for the 76ers, they've been trying for the past couple of years to build around having a third guy. They were lucky to have Tyrese Maxey and what his deal is right now. I don't know if he signed. Did he sign an extension over the week too, Tyrese Maxey? I forget.
Yeah, he got it. He got a big
max.
A max
deal for Tyrese Maxey, and deservingly so. But you look at, like you said, for Paul George, maybe he fits well with Nick Nurse and what they do there. I guess my only plus side positive pro here is that maybe he'll fit better there versus the Clippers. I saw a funny tweet over the weekend when Paul George decided to go to the Sixers. Someone said, I'm going to miss this duo with Kawhi and Paul George. And someone was like, that duo hasn't done anything. They didn't do anything that entire time for the Los Angeles Clippers. So I thought that was hilarious. But yeah, I agree with you. You look at their you look at their 2 depth right now. They're going to ask a lot out of Caleb Martin, who they just signed this morning. They're going to ask a lot about Eric Gordon, which you and me know from the Suns last year. A little bit of disappointing, especially when there was reports coming out saying that he wanted the ball more. He wanted more opportunities to score. We thought he was going to be that 6th man. And then Jared McCain, a 21-year-old, you know, you can say what you want to say about the nails and the TikToks and stuff like that. He's a baller, but he's going to have to be asked to be in a bigger role because, like you said, we're not in a big 3 era anymore. We're in a role players depth kind of league. And the Celtics, which, again, who are built for it once again, and them getting Baylor Schreierman in the draft, an older shooter, is a plus for them too. But yeah, the 76ers team, and you said like injuries too. Paul George, Joel Embiid are going to be asked a lot of minutes every single night. And can they be healthy when the playoffs needed most? And for Paul George to have one of those playoff moments this year, like you said, it's been 11 years.
It's been 11 years since that has happened. The Jared McCain thing is probably the most encouraging thing they did. A guy out of Duke, very sharp. I know I've not really spoken against the painting of the nails and the TikTok. I just think it's objectively different behavior, which is why I've spoken out against it with like Caleb Williams, but he's the leader of the team. Jared McCain is not going to be the leader of the team, and I don't care what he does. As long as he's a reliable backup point guard, that's totally fine. The Eric Gordon thing, people just didn't watch the Suns this year. Eric Gordon is a cone defensively. He's really bad defensively. And if his shot, which you find out within the first like 30 seconds of a game, if he's going to be able to start hitting shots, Eric Gordon, if he's not hitting, is completely useless. The Kelly Oubre thing was a good re-sign for them. Caleb Martin was not good last year. Ever since the playoffs in that Miami Heat run a year and a half ago, he hasn't been very good. So we'll see what the 76ers do. I think it's been a clearly overhyped free agency for them. I want to see it on the floor before I start crowning them better than the Boston Celtics, who, if anyone knows, I've spoke out against multiple times, or the New York Knicks, who I was said need another guy. I think both those teams are still better, but nevertheless, I guess we can move on from them.
Yeah, so they've got the fourth best odds right now. Another odd drop or change, I should say, from June 18th versus July 3rd is the New York Knicks. You mentioned them. They were plus 1,600 on June 18th. They traded for Mikal Bridges. They re-signed OG Anunoby. They did well in the draft. They got a lot, like 3 or 4 guys from the draft. Now they're at plus 1,000, which is an odds jump there. And for the value, and you bring back the Nova brothers all back together, I mean, I think value bank for your buck, Ben. I mean, plus 1,000 for the New York Knicks right now. We haven't even seen them through the summer league. We haven't seen them through preseason yet. Might be a good take in terms of them winning the NBA Finals.
Yeah, you said it. This is really great value for the New York Knicks. This is a match made in heaven. What is Thibodeau's Achilles heel? Plays dudes way too much. He runs them into the ground. He plays 8 guys deep in the regular season. Who did they match him up with? A guy who hasn't missed a game since he stepped on the floor. Mikal Bridges. That's another guy that can alleviate some of the scoring woes from Jalen Brunson, who needs another guy. Josh Hart, Dante DiVincenzo is probably better off coming off the bench. OG Anunoby is back. This team, I would have really hesitated to just pick, if the Knicks were healthy, I would have hesitated to pick the Celtics in that series. I probably would have ultimately picked them if they had played. But now, Mikal Bridges on Jason Tatum, OG Anunoby on Jaylen Brown, and a Jason Tatum who wasn't very good in the playoffs again this year, and Jaylen Brown, who is probably more seen as a number 2, although he really elevated himself this year. They are matched up perfectly for the Boston Celtics, similarly to the Minnesota Timberwolves being matched up perfectly to the Denver Nuggets last year. And we all saw how that went down. We know it ultimately failed against the Mavericks, but they are clearly making a team and constructing a team to go up against the Boston Celtics. And I think this is a team that could beat them. Are you on that boat?
I am. My only worry with the New York Knicks is they're going to have to go a lot of small ball this year just based on them losing Hartenstein. I think that was a big loss for him. I like the Mikal trade. Great acquisition there. But you look at some of the teams on the Western Conference that are more bigger, the Jokic's, the Minnesotas, the Thunder getting Hartenstein. Now they've got him and Chet. That's my only worry. And what you saw last year with Tom Thibodeau playing his players into the ground. Like, I mean, Mitchell Robinson's their starting center, and he only played 31 games last season, so you're going to ask him in a bigger role at 26. Hopefully he can play more, but I agree with you, Ben. The Knicks are longevity. They're going to be the Thunder of the the Eastern Conference, I should say. But my only worry was Hartenstein going and getting that bag with the Thunder. Could that be a loss? I'm curious to see what you have to think about that.
No, I think the Thunder. So the Knicks were clearly, I thought, the winners of free agency and the offseason so far, getting a guy like Tyler Kolek as well. We haven't even talked about a good backup point guard who was highly fonded over with here in Phoenix. Suns fans really liked him. The Knicks, I believe, were the offseason winners in the East. The offseason winners in the West, very close with the Dallas Mavericks, because I love the Klay Thompson acquisition, is the Oklahoma City Thunder. They had one glaring need, a hole at center, a big body that can get rebounds and can finish around the rim. Now you have two 7-footers in Chet and Isaiah Hartenstein. That, for me, as much as I have an affinity for the Dallas Mavericks and Luka Doncic, should be the team coming out of the West next year with another year of getting healthy, another year of playing together. Jalen Williams is going to make another jump. The Oklahoma City Thunder adding Alex Caruso, another body to throw at Luka, and Isaiah Hartenstein, a guy that can get boards and finish around the rim, were fantastic this year in their ability to get to the next level. So the Thunder and the Knicks, just both great this past year, this past offseason.
Yeah, and you look at the Thunder, they're plus 800 before on June 18th. They were plus 1,000. So their odds are starting to creep down. If you want to catch on the Thunder early, better do so now. But I agree with you, Ben. And this team is young.